Why, hello, everyone. Welcome to the pros and cons of moving to Florida versus North Carolina, second edition. I did a video on this 5 years ago, so I decided to do some updates, and also there were a couple things I said in the last video that were unprofessional, and I'll just leave it at that. So first thing, let's talk about the biggie. Everybody's interested in the weather. Florida, of course, year-round warmth. You do have two distinct seasons. You have the wet season and the dry season. The wet season is generally from June until October. More than half of your annual rainfall falls between June and October, hence the term wet season. Now, it doesn't mean it rains all the time or you still can't enjoy outdoor activities, but if you want to beat the rain, the best advice I can give you from June to October is conduct your outdoor activities in the morning, okay? Because by 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to rain. And generally, these thunderstorms, some days you'll get the thunderstorms that last 5-10 minutes, but there are other days it'll rain for hours and hours. Big, heavy thunderstorms that just will not quit, okay? Now, the rest of the year, from generally starting about beginning of November till the end of April, is your dry season. Now, dry season does not mean that it is dry the whole time, but generally, if it rains more than once a week, it is a news event. Let's put it that way. Rain is very rare in the dry season. Temperatures, this is mainly just a winter issue. If you're in the southern part of Florida from Interstate 4 on south, generally your temperatures in the wintertime are going to be lower mid-70s for highs and low temperatures, overnight lows in the 50s. In the northern part of the state, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Panama City, etc., you're going to see your daytime temperatures generally in the mid-upper 60s and overnight lows in the mid-upper 40s. However, it does, the further north you are in Florida, the more prone you are to cold snaps. What's a cold snap? A cold snap is generally where the overnight temperature will get down below 40. And I know if you're watching this from Minnesota, you're probably laughing right now, right? But yeah, if it gets below 40, that's when you'll start to see a lot of freeze watches and warnings. You'll talk about, outdoor plants, orange crops, all kinds of, agriculture stuff. Farmers trying to protect their fields and that sort of thing. And also, if you're in the northern part of Florida, don't be surprised if a few nights out of the year it gets down to the 20s where you actually have to scrape off your windshield in the morning before you leave for work or whatever activities you're doing that day, wherever you're driving to. Also, annual rainfall, the Panhandle gets the most rainfall in the state of Florida, and that's probably why housing prices are a little bit cheaper in Panama City Beach than they are, say, down in Naples or Miami Beach and that sort of area there. A little bit more rainfall in the Panhandle than the rest of the state. And as far as snow, it has not snowed in Florida since 1989, and that was just, I think Jacksonville might have gotten it dusting, and there are a few flurries in Orlando, but that's about it in Florida. If you're the kind of person that absolutely hates snow, Florida is almost always a good option for relocation. Now, North Carolina and snowfall is a little bit different. The south and east part of North Carolina, I'm talking about Wilmington, Lumberton, Fayetteville, that whole area, Charlotte. Snow in this area is fairly rare. Your annual snowfall is like less than 2 inches. And honestly, you can go 5 or even 10 years without a big snowfall in this part of North Carolina. But there have been, you can get one snowfall, get like 6 inches, and that'll be it for like 10 years. But if you're the kind of person who's used to snowy climates and you're used to things being open when there's an inch of snow on the ground, North Carolina and most of the south and southeast, if there's even an inch of snow, everything shuts down for a day or two, and the grocery stores the day before are slammed. So just so you know, we handle snow a little bit different in the south than you do up north. Just so you know, temperatures in North Carolina in the wintertime, the averages, again, south and east part of the state, generally mid-upper 50s during the day. At nighttime, lows about 40. Maybe it gets 35, 40. Raleigh, Greensboro, generally about upper 40s, lower 50s during the day, and at nighttime take 20 degrees off of that and you get your overnight lows. However, North Carolina is in a battle zone. We're in the mid-south, so we're right between the more longer winter climate zone, and we're in the non-winter climate zone, right between the two climate zones. So this week, we're in mid-December. The early part of this week, it's been highs, and highs have generally, so far this winter, we've been a little bit above normal. Highs have been in the mid-upper 50s. The first part of the week. Today is supposed to be about 67 for a high. And then Friday and Saturday are going to be in the lower mid-70s. And then we have a big cold front coming through. It's going to knock us back down to the 50s. Okay. Some sort of truck or something. Anyway. But snow, even in Greensboro area, is definitely a rarity here in North Carolina. The last big snow we had was about a foot of snow 3 years ago in December, and it hardly ever snows in December here. Generally, January and the first part of February are really the only snow-prone time of the year. That's not to say, yes, it has snowed in March, but again, the winters here are becoming, in recent years, a lot more milder and a lot more shorter. Okay. Ice can still be an issue here, though, but generally the ice, that's more of a morning event. That's not an all-day event like a snow thing would be. And generally the mountains, especially down towards Asheville, that area, yes, they do see snow annually. Of course, the higher you get, higher elevations will see double-digit inches. Asheville, probably a few inches a year. Fairly common in Asheville, but the rest of the state, snow is very uncommon. Taxes. Florida has no state income tax. They also have no annual property tax on your vehicles. They also have no tax on groceries. The big thing about tax policy between Florida and North Carolina, North Carolina has all the taxes, but they're at a low. All the taxes that we do have are at low rates. Florida has some taxes or zero, but for property taxes on your home are a lot higher than North Carolina. So Florida has like some are at zero, but then some are at very high numbers too. North Carolina, our income tax has been going down in recent years. We were at 5.75%, and now we're at 5%, and we're supposed to go down under 4% over the next 5 years. We do have property tax that you pay on your vehicles annually. And we do have vehicle inspections here in North Carolina too. And also some cities add their own wheel tax to your car registration here in North Carolina. But in Florida, your car registration, pretty much no matter where you live in Florida, it's like $40 a year. And outside of a brief spike during like the 2008 recession, I mean, the vehicle registration fee in Florida has been like around $40 since like the 80s. Here in North Carolina, it's been going up a little bit over the last few years. Generally, there's a state law that says it has to go up about 2% every 4 years. But on the flip side of that, we have been getting more money for the roads around here. But the big thing with your vehicles, car insurance. Car insurance in North Carolina is on average, about half of what it is in Florida. Okay, and that, I mean, looking at my living situation, my biggest monthly expense is obviously my rent. But after that, because my car is paid for, my next biggest bill is my car insurance bill, and so that, I mean, it went from, in Florida it's like $85 a month, and in North Carolina it went down to like 40. So think about that, $40 a month that you're saving. That's like almost $500 a year that you're saving in North Carolina versus Florida. Now, yeah, North Carolina has some taxes that Florida doesn't, but still, you're going to find you're going to come out ahead here. Why is that? Well, let's take a look at the grocery store situation. Florida is pretty much just Publix and Walmart's, okay? There's not much competition, but North Carolina is very competitive with groceries. Of course, we have Walmart, we have Publix, although it's not as dominant here as it is down in Florida yet. We also have Food Lion, Harris Teeter, Lowe's Foods, Lidl. In the Raleigh area, they have a couple Wegmans stores, Trader Joe's in a couple places, Whole Foods, Aldi. We got all the grocery stores here in North Carolina. It's a beautiful thing. And guess what? At least two of those grocery store chains double coupons. They have Harris Teeter and Lowe's Foods double coupons. I will say, in years past, Harris Teeter used to be open 24 hours a day. Unfortunately, now, because of the COVID and the labor market being, so many people not working, Harris Teeter now, I think the latest they still open is they open at 6 most stores, and most stores close at 10 or 11. Food Line has always been 7 to 11. They've always been very consistent. Walmart also used to be 24 hours a day. They are not anymore. They're 6 to 11 most stores. Publix, believe it or not, here where in the Greensboro area at least, there are 2 stores they have here. They close at 9, believe it or not. There's dollar stores are open later than Publix is here, and yet down in Florida, at least where my parents are, the Publix is down there open till 10. It's crazy. But food costs, I would say, are definitely lower here in North Carolina. Especially, I mean, even even Walmart. Walmart has different prices all over the country. In Florida, I remember paying for a can of the Great Value beef ravioli. It was like 85 cents in Florida. Here in North Carolina, it's like 60 cents. A bag of chips was like $2. in Florida, a bag of chips down up here is like $1. So really, you know, your food prices in North Carolina, that's definitely an area where to save money. Housing. Whew, this has changed a little bit over the last few years. Florida has really, Florida has always been, at least in terms of the southeast, the southern states, Florida has always had the highest housing cost. And North Carolina has always been in that lower tier, more with the Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana crowd. But now I will say Florida is still highest in the southeast, but North Carolina is now more of a, there's not as much difference between Florida and North Carolina in terms of housing costs as there used to be. Now, property taxes are still a lot cheaper in North Carolina than Florida, but still your terms of your, rent or mortgage, it's not as much difference. It's still a little bit cheaper in North Carolina than Florida, but North Carolina would definitely have a couple booming areas. The Raleigh and Charlotte area, the market's very hot. Wilmington, very hot as well. Greensboro is mild. I definitely, I've moved twice in the last 3 years here in Greensboro. Both times I've noticed things getting tighter, more expensive, and I'm in the more of the lower income room for rent crowd, and even that's been like, people are just overcharging for places. I was able to find a great place though where I am now, though, fortunately. But it was pretty much, the landlord's pretty much, I got 2 other people looking at this, first come, first serve, so the housing market in both states and really nationwide, if you see a place you like, you better get it like right then and there, pretty much. Alright, so we've said taxes are a little bit higher in North Carolina than they are in Florida, which is true. But as far as at least the roads and the highway infrastructure in North Carolina versus Florida, you definitely get what you pay for. The mentality in Florida is toll roads, and more toll roads. I wish I could tell you toll roads were a good thing, but I will say though, if you go on the turnpike in Florida and you go like south of Orlando, you get down in rural Osceola and Indian River County, the quality of the pavement is terrible. The toll roads in Florida, it's like they just do the bare minimum. They're next year or two, they're getting ready to open the northwest part of the Orlando Beltway, which the whole Beltway is all tolled, has tolls all around it. But the biggest problem that I see with the northwest part of the Orlando Beltway is that it's only 2 lanes in each way, and the development in Central Florida has been out of control. So I think that road is going to be congested the moment it opens. It's crazy. But it's definitely, Florida will definitely squeeze you as far as highway infrastructure. The only good thing about Florida highway infrastructure is I-95 and I-75 throughout the state now are both 6 lanes at least. So that's a nice thing. But a lot of, like, Florida doesn't really have a whole lot of, like, bypasses. They do have bypasses. You usually have to pay a toll, or if they do have a bypass, it's like, I think around the, what town is it on US 301? Stark or Lalty? There's a bypass, but like there's a traffic light on both ends of the bypass, and then there's an interchange right in the middle. Well, in North Carolina, they build bypasses all over the state. And the neat thing is there's no tolls on them. There's hardly any traffic lights. Most of the bypasses have interchanges. And also, the attitude throughout the state of North Carolina is widening. When they widen a road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, yeah, it's a lot of interstate building, freeway building, a lot of interchanges. Florida is toll roads. It's, if we build a new road, we're just going to put traffic lights on it, and it'll be congested within a few years, and development will be runaway down there. So there are toll roads in North Carolina, but they're very rare. There's one right outside of Charlotte, Highway 74 it's a little east of Charlotte, goes around the suburb of Monroe, and that'll only cost you maybe $3 or $4 for it's a 20-mile toll road. I mean, if you drive across to Orlando, it's going to cost you double that. It's crazy. In half the many miles. I mean, the tolls, not only are they all over the place in Florida, they're expensive. Maybe not as expensive as New York City, but still, just for a southern state, just too expensive. Not to mention Florida, I mean, they have the gas taxes in North Carolina and Florida are both about the same, but they're still really high. So Florida, I mean, for the amount of gas tax people pay, and all the tourists that are coming, the roads should be a lot better, but it's a mess down there. There's also a toll road in Raleigh, but again, these toll roads, it's just one road in Raleigh. Charlotte is going to be a little bit more toll road friendly because they're adding express lanes to the Beltway, 485 in that area. But still, in Florida, they're widening the Beachline Expressway in Orlando. Okay, that's already a toll road. Well, they're going to widen the toll road and put another. So you have to pay one toll to get on the Beachline, and then if you want to go in they're going to put toll lanes on top of toll lanes, so you got to be double tolled. Oh, plus you're already paying a gas tax, a registration fee. What is going on? And then also widening the turnpike in Palm Beach and Martin counties. Well, again, instead of using the toll money they already have to widen the road and people just paying one toll, it's okay, we're going to have 2 lanes here. You can pay one toll, or you can pay double tolls and drive in these, express lanes. It's ridiculous. Okay. People. Let's talk about the people. I have noticed that people in North Carolina are generally friendlier than Florida. Now, that's not to say that everyone in Florida is mean as snot, and that's not to say every single person in North Carolina is nice, is the nicest person on earth. Okay, there's definitely some bad apples living in both states. But I'll tell you though, as a person who works in a grocery store and is constantly walking around up and down aisles of a grocery store, the behavior of people in North Carolina versus Florida is night and day. In Florida, I remember shopping a lot at the Publix down there, and it's one time there was a lady having a conversation with another lady, and another time there's a conversation, a couple guys talking, and they were they're around the checkout area, okay, and I was walking, okay, I was there was plenty of room to pass them on the left, so I did that, and people that were having a couple of people, there were 4 people, a couple guys, a couple girls. Well, one of the couples just went, almost ran into me. They never looked around, seen it was coming. It's a mess. Never said excuse me. Oh, and one other time I was in, I can't remember if it was Publix or Walmart, one of the 2 stores, but there were some elderly people. There were 3 or 4 people having a conversation right in the middle of the aisle, and I had to say excuse me 3 times in order for them to let me through. It was crazy. In North Carolina, if you encounter the situation, generally, you only have to say it once, excuse me, and generally, it'll be followed by, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't see you. Oh, I'm so sorry, People just in North Carolina are a lot more polite, I've noticed, especially in the grocery store. I mean, grocery stores are one of the best places to study people, right? Also, when you're driving too. That's, but yeah, driving. North Carolina, I would say, has better drivers than Florida, but that's like saying a hamburger is healthier for you than a hot dog. Both states really stink as far as drivers on the road. I grew up in Maryland. I grew up on the Eastern Shore. People were generally well behaved on the East Shore of Maryland. Most people use their turn signal. Most people, if got over, if they see you coming from overtaking them in the left lane on a dual highway, usually most people got over to the right. In Baltimore, Washington, not as great, but really the big problem with us Marylanders is we like to drive fast. Okay, so the concept with Maryland drivers, I would say, is stay out of our way and we'll stay out of yours. Florida and North Carolina is very different. Florida is the worst, I would say. There have been a couple of episodes that have just been boggle my mind. I was on the Leroy Selman Expressway in Tampa. I can't believe I remember that, but I was picking up my sister. She was at a concert down there at the Amale Arena, picking her and her girlfriend up one night. I was going down the expressway. There was this car parked in the shoulder, right? And I was just cruising along, doing, I think speed was like 65, 70. I was doing like whatever, same thing pretty much, and cruising right along. And all of a sudden I see the vehicle just go right back onto the road. No signal, no, accelerating in the shoulder to get up to speed, just went right to the road. Fortunately, I was far enough back to where I could make a move, but still was very surprised to see that. And then another thing, I mean, people, another situation, I was on a freeway going from 3 lanes to 2 lanes. Okay, there was this vehicle, and him and I were going about the same speed, and I was trying to go a bit faster so he would get behind me. But no, he decides to go even faster and cut me off and merge. There are bad drivers in North Carolina, but I think a lot of them more are they're not as intentional with their actions as Florida. People in both states, unfortunately, majority of them do not use a turn signal, and I believe that about 90% of crashes could be prevented if people just use their turn signal. They change lanes, making turns, that sort of thing. The biggest problem here in North Carolina, I mean, down in Florida, it's like everything. People will cut you off, they'll, not signal, not yield. They'll, the biggest issue in Florida, I think, is when you're in a traffic light and there are 2 lanes, turn left. Well, the light turns green, they go from the left lane to the right lane, cut you off like that. It's crazy. North Carolina, that's never happened here, fortunately. Not yet, anyway. But North Carolina, the biggest problem is people love to stay in the left lane on a dual highway. There's a lot of people who just will not get over. They will not take a hint. And what I mean by, I don't tailgate, I don't do that crap, but, if you start to, coming up on somebody and they look like they're driving a little bit slower than you, and they're like, okay, get over, please. I pass so much on the right. It's almost like I feel like I'm in Europe or something. It's crazy. But I have this expression that maybe they're busy eating a chicken box of chicken and biscuits from Bojangles or something. But anyway, yeah, drivers in both states stink, but North Carolina's people are a little bit more, it's a tad bit more better than Florida. Fun activities. Let's talk about that. The biggest thing, if you're the kind of person, this should be obvious, but I'll say it anyway. If you're the kind of person that loves the beach, loves going to the beach every single day of the year, loves playing golf every single day of the year, pretty much loves warm weather all the time, loves going to amusement parks every single day of the year, Florida is for you. If you're more into historic sites, museums, mountains, hills, that sort of thing, North Carolina's for you. That's what I'll say. Cost of activities, I noticed too, along with groceries, it's cheaper in North Carolina to have fun. I looked at, okay, let's take the Orlando Science Center. Cost $21 for one visit. Then you got to pay for parking. That's another $5, so $26. Just for the Orlando Science Center. That doesn't include, any other stuff. Greensboro Science Center has a science center, an aquarium, and a zoo. You can do all of that. No, you don't have to worry about paying for parking. It's free. You do it for $19.50. Okay. Bowling. A lot of bowling alleys in North Carolina. Most weeknights, a lot of places will have $1 games, and you just pay $1 for shoe rental. A lot of places in Florida don't have that. And even you can do a daytime special here in Greensboro, a couple bowling alleys, like $10, shoes included. You can bowl for bowl, you want for $2. Miniature golf, a lot of places in North Carolina it's like $5, $6, maybe $7. In Florida it's like over $10, $15, just so you know. Food. I already talked about groceries. What about dining out? If you like buffets, I do. North Carolina is definitely a lot more buffet friendlier than Florida. There are pockets of Florida, especially in the northern part of Florida, that do have a lot of buffets too. But North Carolina, pretty much all throughout the state, you have a lot of family-owned southern barbecue buffet places. And of course, everywhere in Florida and North Carolina, you have Chinese buffets. Golden Corral was founded in Fayetteville, North Carolina, about 50 years ago now. So there's Golden Corral is in both states, but I think there are more locations in North Carolina than there are Florida. But I'm not quite sure on that. Okay, but the biggest reason to relocate, the biggest thing you need to keep in mind the biggest thing you need to keep in mind when you relocate is what are your hobbies, and are your hobbies going to be better or worse than they were in your old location or the place you're trying to move from. I learned this the hard way. This channel is called The Conservative Pelican, and so you might be able to figure out that most of you are pretty smart, so I think you'll be able to figure out that one of my hobbies is that I'm a political activist, and I support most of the time I support the policies of the Republican Party. I all the time vote for Republican politicians. Okay, I'll say that like that. Well, North Carolina versus Florida. Back in 2014, I moved from Wilmington to Orlando. One of the biggest things I liked about living in North Carolina was the political system. And I assumed, without doing research, that Florida would have exactly the same political system as North Carolina. It did not. In North Carolina, It's very easy to get involved in politics. What I mean by get involved, well, look, both states in like most of the counties will have your monthly your monthly Republican or your monthly Democrat Party meeting. Okay, but what's different, Florida versus North Carolina, is North Carolina we have a annual convention process where anybody, as long as you register with that, register Republicans, go to Republican convention. Register Democrats, go to Democrat convention. If you're unaffiliated, you're out of luck. Sorry. I mean, if you're Libertarian, Constitution, Green Party, they have their events too, but they're a lesser degree than Republican or Democrat. Okay, but every year in North Carolina, each county will have a county convention, and that is an opportunity for you to become a precinct chair. And a precinct chair is somebody who, goes door to door around their neighborhood, immediate area where they live, and try to get people to vote, get people out to the polls on election day. And if you're a precinct chair in your county in North Carolina, you automatically get to go on the county executive committee. Same thing as Florida. But in Florida, they do not have county conventions, district conventions, or state conventions. North Carolina, they do. Once a year, the county party will gather and have a county convention. Okay? In odd number years, you'll always vote for your chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, secretary, etc. And then in all the years, you'll vote on different platform items, resolutions, etc., etc. Do a lot of exciting party business. And I'll tell you, it's a lot more exciting than what I'm talking about right now, I promise. And then each congressional district, you go to congressional district convention. That's even better, because there you get to vote for your district chairman, vice chairman, secretary, etc. Every odd number of year, you get to vote for people who represent you on the state executive committee. And then you have your state convention, and that is like a 2-day event where you do all kinds of party business. You make resolutions, motions, platform, plan of organization, the bylaws of the party officers, all kinds of stuff. Okay? In Florida, okay, and guess what? The neat thing about North Carolina is anybody, as long as you're affiliated with a political party, you can serve on your state's respective political party executive committee. You just show up. You can, talk to your county or district chair. That helps too. Or you can just show up to district convention and say, "Hi, I'm John Smith, and I'm going to run for a seat on the state executive committee." And then people vote for you that day, and if you get enough votes, you'll be on the state executive committee. Most of the time, there's not even an election. Usually, there's more spots than there are people that want to be on the North Carolina Republican Party State Executive Committee. Now in Florida, it's entirely different, okay? You actually have to run in a official election. It's like you have to run as an elected official. And each county in Florida gets one state committee man and one state committee woman. I used to live in Seminole County, and there were like 3 or 4 candidates had to run for one spot each. They all had to raise money, get their word out, campaign. And the worst part of it was they were all campaigning for a job title that paid $0. Now, the North Carolina State Executive Committee is voluntary. They also pay $0, but you do not have to run a full-blown campaign like you do down in Florida. And also, the Republican Party of Florida, they have like 3 or 4 quarterly meetings a year, which is good. But the problem is that most of the exciting stuff they have in closed session. So unless you're a county party chairman or you're one of two state committee man, you're a state committee man or state committee woman representing the county, you're not able to hear any of the juicy, exciting stuff on the state. In the state of Florida Republican Party. And I'll tell you, there were two examples that really drew me back to North Carolina. One was the chairman, Blazing Goalie at the time of the Florida Republican Party, was pushing like everything back to closed session. He was like misused his power, I thought. And also at the time when they went to closed session, I was just like, I left the place in tears. It was like a 30-minute drive home when I was in Florida at the time, and I was like crying, didn't have any music on. I was just, ugh. Then another thing is when they pick delegates for the national convention, which happens every 4 years. Okay? But in 2020, they didn't have it because of COVID. But hopefully, knock on wood, they will have it in 2024 and then years going forward. But now, in North Carolina, anybody can run, as long as you're a registered Republican or Democrat, you can run for a spot as a convention delegate, okay? Anybody can do it. And anybody can vote at the district or state convention for people to represent them at the national convention. Well, in Florida, that's not the case. No. Technically anybody can run in Florida, but the problem is there's so much disorganization. I'll never forget, this was back in the 2016 election cycle. Me and a friend of mine, the great Tony Tizio, who was unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, him and I went out to the meeting to select delegates, okay? We got there. The meeting was supposed to start at 6. We got there about 10 minutes before, and they were actually already having a meeting. That was one red flag. Number two is the venue was this little, like, I think it was like, what was it? Denny's or Po Folks, one of those places. But it was like half of like a quarter. There's a little room, very small room. They were having the meeting, okay, and they were already, like, the room was overflowed where they were having the meeting. Well, you could wait outside the room, but the problem with that is that the room was soundproof. You couldn't hear anything going on. In North Carolina, there's always a lot of attention to detail with these way the parties run. Okay? There's never been a county, district, or state convention or a meeting to select delegates where I've ever, where it's ever been, the venues have always been the appropriate size for what's happening. You've always been able to get a chair, Now, thanks to enthusiasm, a few places around the state have had some standing room only, but still, you can at least hear what's going on. It's none of this closed door BS that Florida has. So, anyway, I think that's everything. This video is 45 minutes long already, and I need to go to work. But, hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, definitely, shoot them in the comment box. If you have any comments, definitely let me know how things are going. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.